Beneath the wide sky of a quiet valley, there stretched a land of soft green pastures, framed by rolling hills and whispering forests. The breeze danced gently through wildflowers and kissed the tall grasses where herds of sheep grazed peacefully under the watchful eyes of their guardians. The flock was large and well-tended. Ewes with calm eyes and thick coats moved slowly through the meadows, their lambs skipping beside them, full of wonder and curiosity. Life in the valley had been peaceful for many seasons, and the sheep had come to believe it would always remain so. Guarding this flock were the sheepdogs, 4 strong-hearted protectors whose coats shimmered like dappled stone beneath the sun. There was Bristle, the oldest and wisest, with fur touched by silver and eyes sharp as flint. Beside him stood his trusted kin, Kora, ever alert with her ears perked to the wind, Moss, whose calm patience could ease any frightened lamb, and Rill, the youngest, full of bounding energy and dreams of valor. The sheepdogs belonged to no master, for there were no humans in this valley anymore. Long ago, shepherds had walked its hills, but time and silence had swallowed them. Still, the sheepdogs remained, bound not by leash or command, but by love and duty to the flock. Beyond the hills, shaded by trees that grew tall and dark, lived another kind of creature, the wolves. They rarely showed themselves in the open, but the scent of them lingered on the winds. Their eyes glinted like coals in the night, and their growls echoed between the trees like hidden thunder. The wolves were many, led by a cunning leader named Varn. His coat was sleek as shadow, and his words were as smooth as polished bone. For years, Varn had watched the valley and its flock with quiet hunger. But he was no fool. He knew the sheepdogs guarded their charges fiercely and would not let a single lamb vanish without a fight. Varn did not fight. He waited. In the calm of late spring, when the air was warm and the clouds lazy, the wolves sent a whisper across the hills. It came not by tooth or claw, but in the form of a single visitor, a young wolf named Fen. He walked alone, his step slow, his tail lowered, his voice soft. "I bring a message," Fen said as he stood at the edge of the meadow. "From Varn. He wishes for peace." The sheepdogs gathered. Bristle came forward first, his paws steady. Kora flanked his left, Moss his right, and Rill danced behind them, his nose twitching with curiosity and doubt. "Peace," Bristle said, his voice low. "From a wolf?" Fen bowed his head. "Varn says the old days are gone. He no longer wishes to hunt. The world has changed, and so must we. The forest grows quiet, and prey grows scarce. But here," he looked to the flock, "here is a home. He does not ask for blood, only for a place. He wishes for wolves to walk the meadow beside the sheep, not behind them." Kora's eyes narrowed. "And when you walk beside us, what stops your teeth from turning?" Fen did not meet her gaze. Trust? Or watchfulness, if trust is too much to ask? Bristle stood silent for a long time. The wind stirred his coat. Behind him the sheep huddled near, bleating softly. "We will speak," he said. That evening, as the sun dipped low and turned the grass to gold, the sheepdogs circled in quiet council. Moss was first to speak. Perhaps they speak truly. If the wolves grow hungry, desperate, they may turn violent. A truce might protect the flock better than war. "But if it is a trick," Kora said, her hard voice hard, "we are letting them close enough to strike." "They've always been close," Rill added, his ears twitching. "At least now we know where they are." Bristle watched the fading sky. "It is a dangerous offer. But we will not rush. Let them send more words, and we will listen. If it is peace they seek, let them prove it." So days passed. Fen returned often, bearing no threat, only talk, quiet eyes, and stories of wolves tired of fighting shadows. He spoke of the changing world, of trees falling and streams drying, of birds flying farther north. He spoke as though wolves and sheep might share the same fate, and maybe the same field. The sheep listened too, from afar. At first they trembled, but as the wolves did not come with snarls or blood, fear began to fade. Some even began to wonder, if the wolves no longer hunted, perhaps they were just animals, like any other. Maybe even friends. Rill, young and open-hearted, began to believe. What if they truly mean it? What if they're like us and only want a place in the sun? Bristle's voice was slow. We were not born to doubt hope, Rill, but we were trained to guard it. Then came a quiet day when no wolves appeared. No messengers, no howls in the distance. The wind shifted and silence settled like a weight. Even the birds seemed uncertain. Kora walked the ridge and sniffed the air. Something feels wrong. That night, Rill wandered farther than he should have. The stars blinked above him and the grasses whispered beneath his paws. He followed a scent, not strong, but old, and came to a place where the trees met the pasture. There he found Fen, sitting alone. "Where have you been?" Rill asked, her voice light with worry. Fen looked up, his eyes tired. "Nowhere, everywhere, it doesn't matter." Rill tilted his head. "The flock grows uneasy when wolves vanish. You said you wanted peace." Fen said nothing for a while, then stood slowly. I do, but peace is a dream, and dreams are soft things. The world is not." Before Rill could answer, Fen turned and disappeared into the shadows. The next morning, one of the lambs was missing. The meadow was still, no signs of a struggle, no blood, no tracks, only an absence, sharp and cold as frost. The sheep wailed, their cries echoing across the valley. The sheepdogs gathered quickly. Moss comforted the mothers. Kora scanned the perimeter. Rill's heart pounded, eyes wide with shame, and Bristle stood like stone. The old dog turned his gaze to the hills and spoke but once. Enough words. He howled into the morning, and the howl was not of sorrow. It was a warning. The wolves had made their move, and the sheepdogs would answer. The valley changed. Where once the grass swayed peacefully beneath the wind, now it held the scent of unease. The lambs no longer played far from their mothers. The older sheep huddled in tighter groups, casting nervous glances toward the trees. The sheepdogs walked patrols, day and night, their paws worn, their eyes sharper than ever. No one spoke of the missing lamb by name, but every sheep remembered, and every dog felt the weight of failure pressing against their shoulders. Rill had barely slept. He lay awake each night, staring at the moon. The image of Fen's tired eyes lingered in his thoughts like a shadow at dusk. He had believed him. He had believed peace was possible. Now his faith tasted like ash. Bristle had grown quiet, not with fear, but with focus. He no longer allowed the wolves' messengers to approach the meadow. No more talks, no more listening. The line between the hills and the pasture had turned to stone. "They tested us," Bristle said softly to Kora one morning, as dew clung to the grass. "They wanted to see how far they could reach before we bit back." Kora's jaw was tight. "We should strike first." But Bristle shook his head. "We guard.
We do not chase. To protect, we must be rooted. Down by the stream, Moss comforted an anxious ewe who refused to let her lambs leave her side. The dogs will not leave you. Your young are safe beneath our paws. But the wind carried a chill and the sky darkened with clouds. One evening, a sound echoed across the valley. Sharp, loud, unnatural. Not a howl, not a bark. It was the bleat of pain. Rill was the first to race toward it, his legs bounding through the underbrush, heart pounding like thunder. The others followed, Kora swift as wind, Bristle steady as stone, Moss gliding through the grass like a ghost. They reached the edge of the lower pasture. There, huddled against a fallen log, was a lamb. Scraped, frightened, alone. Around him were marks in the dirt. No blood, just paw prints. Wolf prints. 3 of them. They came in and left, Kora said, nose to the ground. No kill, just fear. They're testing us again, Bristle said, eyes cold. No longer with teeth, but with pressure. The sheep murmured through the night, shaken. A new kind of fear bloomed, not of being taken, but of being watched. Every snapping twig, every flicker in the trees became a whisper of dread. The wolves had not broken the flock, but they had bent it. And bending could lead to cracks. Not long after, the wolves sent another messenger, not Fen this time, an older one, a large she-wolf with gray in her muzzle and a scar beneath her eye. She did not come close. She stood atop the ridge and called down. Bristle, you guard well, but how long will you last? The sheep grow restless. We hear them cry. The sheepdogs gathered, but did not approach. Bristle stood front and center, his tail held high. We do not speak with thieves, he answered, his voice like iron. We took only what the land owed us. 1 lamb for 1 piece, a small price. You broke the truce. There was no truce, she snapped. Only words, and words do not fill the belly. With that, she turned and vanished into the trees. The next morning, a sheep wandered too far and vanished. This time, there were no doubts. The wolves were hunting now, not in secret, not in stealth, but in strategy. They came near, they watched, they stirred fear. They struck where the lines thinned. They never took more than 1, never spilled more blood than needed. But they took. Rill was shaking when he returned from tracking. He whispered, "They move like shadows, always in 3s, never the same direction twice. They know our paths." Moss nodded solemnly. "They've been watching longer than we knew." "We cannot hold the field like this forever," Kora growled. "They'll tire us out, break us down, one by one." But Bristle stood still, eyes distant. "We do not match wolves with teeth. That is their way. We find another." And so he did. That night, under a moon ringed with mist, Bristle walked alone into the high hills. He did not return until dawn, his paws muddy and his breath short. But when he did, he carried a scent with him that had not blown through the valley in many seasons. Smoke. Wood smoke. The others stared. "You went to the edge," Kora said, astonished. Bristle nodded. "Beyond the ridge, I found what was left of the old farmstead." Moss tilted his head. "It's ruins." "Not all of it," Bristle replied. "The fences are broken, the barn is hollow, but the land remembers, and the wolves have not touched it." Rill's eyes lit with realization. "You want to move the flock." "They will not expect it. The old farm is still walled by stone, and if we guide the sheep there, we can defend it. Not with speed, but with shape. Let the walls help us, let the land fight with us." Kora gave a slow nod. It's risky, but better than bleeding where we stand. And so the plan began. Over the next days, the dogs worked in shifts, clearing paths through the overgrown brambles, guiding the sheep by moonlight, whispering calm into fearful ears. They avoided open fields. They traveled in silence. Not once did they lose a single lamb along the way. Until one evening, near the last bend of the trail, the wolves struck. 3 of them, swift and silent. They lunged from the trees, claws raking the air, eyes blazing with hunger. But the sheepdogs were ready. Kora met the first with a crushing blow to the ribs. Moss circled and snapped at ankles, hurting the sheep behind him. Rill launched at a lunging wolf with a fierce snarl, his teeth finding fur. And Bristle, the oldest, stood his ground in the center, unyielding. The wolves tried once, then again, but the dogs fought not with rage, but with unity. At last, the wolves fled, bruised and breathless. No sheep were lost. The flock reached the old farmstead before dawn. The stone walls still stood, worn but strong. Inside, grass grew thick and soft. The old trough still had water from spring rain. Safety, however fragile, wrapped around them like a warm blanket. The sheep rested. The dogs stood watch. The wolves circled at a distance, but did not come close. And from within the fence, Rill stood atop the crumbled wall and looked to the trees. He no longer searched for Fen. He searched for the next shadow. For the fight was not over, but now it was theirs to choose.
Days passed, then weeks. The flock settled into the old farmstead, learning to live within stone and shadow. At first, they were nervous. The stones were unfamiliar. The wind sounded different between the old beams. But soon the lambs began to play again. The grass was sweet, and the air was still. And for a while, the wolves kept their distance. The sheepdogs took shifts guarding the walls. Rill and Kora watched by night, Moss and Bristle by day. The crumbled barn became a shelter. The trough, once a human relic, now gleamed with clean rainwater. The sheep rested deeper. The dogs slept lighter. But one morning, Moss found something that made his ears stiffen. A tuft of fur, dark, coarse, and unmistakable, caught in the bramble at the far corner of the wall. He sniffed at once and looked to Bristle. "They're testing again." Bristle said nothing at first. Then he walked to the wall and studied the ground. No tracks over, only near. They're watching. Kora trotted over, having heard. They're waiting, planning something. Rill, from the tower stump, growled, "Let them come." That night, the wolves returned, but not in stealth. They howled. A chorus of long, echoing calls rolled down from the hills, shaking the leaves and silencing the owls. It was not a cry of pain or hunger. It was a declaration. Varn had returned. He did not creep to the edge this time. He came in the open, bold and alone, and stood on the ridge under the stars. The sheepdogs saw him clearly, his coat glistening black, his eyes catching moonlight like blade tips. Bristle walked to the wall and stood tall. "You have no business here," he barked. Varn's lips curled in a slow smile. "But I do. Your stone box has made you brave, old dog. It has made us smart. You think walls save you. Stone cracks, wood burns, wolves wait." Bristle held his gaze. "Then wait." Varn paced a little, tail flicking. "We were kind once. One lamb at a time. A small tax. But you refused us.
And now our patience fades. No more sheep will be taken, Bristle replied firmly. Then we will take the dogs, Varn growled, his voice lower now. We will break your guard. Then the flock will follow like leaves in wind. Silence fell. Then Bristle said something that surprised even the wolves listening nearby. We're not just dogs anymore. We are the wall. Varn laughed, but his eyes narrowed. Then I will break the wall. He turned and vanished into the trees. This time, for good. That night, the sheepdogs did not sleep. They met in the barn where firelight flickered from an old lantern Moss had repaired with care. The sheep huddled together, sensing the storm to come. They will attack before the next moon, Kora said. And this time, not in threes, in force. We'll never match their number, Moss said softly, but we might outlast their fury. Bristle looked to Rill. What do you think? Rill hesitated. Then he said, Let them come, but let them come wrong. What do you mean? Rill stood straighter. They expect us to defend. Let's confuse them. Guide them where we choose. Build what they do not expect. So for 3 days, while the wolves prepared for war, the sheepdogs built. They moved stones to form narrow paths. They stacked fallen wood at key gaps in the wall. They dug small pits just inside the overgrown corners and camouflaged them with branches. They guided the sheep to stay central where the wall was strongest. The lambs were kept hidden behind the barn, where no wolf could leap easily. They worked silently, feverishly. On the 4th night, the storm came. Not of rain or thunder, but of growls, snarls, and pounding paws. The wolves charged the wall in waves. The sheepdogs held. Kora met the first wave at the narrow gap between the stones, snapping and slamming with all her force. Moss dashed between shadows, leading attackers into pits where they stumbled and fell. Rill stood atop the wall and leapt down like a stone, knocking a wolf backward before bounding up again. His youth had become precision. His speed, their shield. And Bristle stood at the barn's mouth, where the wall dipped and the attack was strongest. He did not bark. He did not flinch. He moved like a storm held by will alone. The battle raged, but the wall stood. The wolves fought hard, but they fought blindly. They struck where they expected weakness and found cunning. They lunged at the flock and met thorns. They leapt over logs and landed in holes. They turned to bite and found jaws waiting. When the first wolf fled, the others began to hesitate. Then more fled, and soon only Varn remained. He stood alone again, panting. His shoulder bled, his jaw dripped. Across from him, Bristle stepped forward. You are not sheepdogs. You are beasts yourselves. We are guardians, and you are no longer welcome here. Varn lowered his head. Then he turned and vanished into the trees. This time, for good. The wolves never returned. Weeks passed. The grass grew thick again. The sheep spread through the fields, no longer clinging to one another. The lambs played by day and slept without shivers. The old farmstead became home. The sheepdogs stood watch still, but with less weight upon their shoulders. They took turns napping in the sun. Rill taught the young lambs to leap over logs. Moss showed them how to sense the wind. Kora ran the walls like a sentinel queen. And Bristle, now slower, sat each evening beneath the tall oak, just inside the gate. He watched the hills and listened to the wind. One evening, as stars began to rise, Rill sat beside him. "Do you think they'll ever come again?" Bristle smiled softly. "Wolves always come again, but we'll be ready." Rill lowered his head. "You are right. Peace needs teeth." "No," Bristle said gently. "Peace needs guardians. And sometimes, guardians must show their teeth. That's different." The wind rustled the grass. Somewhere an owl called. And in that moment, with the stars above and the valley quiet once more, the sheep rested. Because they knew the wall still stood. And so did the sheepdogs.